Jerry and Charlie riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your fans. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Chase Station.
Today is Tuesday, October 15th. The National League Championship Series is tied 1 win apiece as we take the day off and fly back to New York for Game 3 at Citi Field. What a win it was for the Mets. So many positive takeaways after getting bludgeoned 9-0 in the first game. These guys punch back, get a big-time win. We have a lot to discuss between Mark Vientos, the bullpen, Sean Manaea, all that good stuff. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, aka Jolly. Joining me is Jerry Blevins, who I guess is so excited to talk about relievers taking the spotlight. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm good, man. It was huge. You want to talk big picture? You got to win one game when you're the road game, and they did. They split on the road. That's what you want to do. That's an advantage to the team coming home for 3. So it's a beautiful thing. They got their butts kicked. Everyone was worried, understandably, but this team is resilient. This Mets team is resilient. They have star power. Lindor shows up right off the bat and says, guess what? We're not being shut out anymore. That narrative, done. And then Manaea does his thing for 5+ innings. And then the bullpen shuts him down. It was a recipe for success. You got Vientos with a huge grand slam. Would have loved to have seen them add. That was a big miss from my standards. They had opportunities to add, but the Dodgers bullpen's legit too. But big picture, you're coming home tied series.
Yes. Does not matter what happened in game 1, as bad as it was. The mission was to get one in LA. Mission accomplished. And the way they accomplished this was pretty inspiring as a fan, because it was a lot of things we hadn't seen before. The biggest thing for me was we now have a playoff win where the bullpen got to shine. The bullpen gave you 4 scoreless innings in this game between Maton, Stanek, and Diaz. And obviously a lot happened before that we'll get to. But just those guys are negotiating a lot of hairy situations against really world-class hitters. They held the Dodgers to 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position in this game. Most of that was when the bullpen was in. Just really cool to see Edwin Diaz punch out the last 3 in order to get the save as well. A lot to love there, but you nailed it, man. I mean, the early innings of this game were key for the Mets, between Lindor immediately erasing the whole scoreless streak thing, which we were slowly but surely becoming a part of. Like, it was mostly the Padres. Then we fed it 9 innings. And it's like, okay, if we come out flat again, this is now a storyline that fully involves us. Instead, Lindor works Ryan Brazier for a great at-bat, 8-pitch at-bat to start the game, and he hits a home run. That's the biggest thing for me in this game. The Mets had 14 at-bats in this game that were 6 or more pitches. They were working this Dodgers bullpen in the hot sun, just making them throw over. The bullpen threw 184 pitches in a 9-inning game. That's more than 20 pitches per inning on average. And in those counts that the Mets worked so deep, they went 4 for 9 with 2 homers and 5 walks. That is the recipe for this team. We didn't see it at all in game 1. We saw them chasing the knuckle curve below the zone. Couple tough called strikes, but that's not the reason the Mets didn't score any runs. It's because their approach just was not there against Jack Flaherty. That approach was here today. It didn't matter who came into the game. They were going to throw, scoreless inning or not. And it was really cool to see. Even if it does, stretch the game out and make it exhausting, which this game was exhausting. That is how the Mets offense wins games. It's by making pitchers work and finding their pitch. And they did it today or yesterday.
Yeah, you nailed it. That was the thing for me, is their approach, what they wanted to do at the plate as hitters, they executed. Make the pitchers come into the zone and then find a pitch, fight off all the really good pitches until you get one you can do damage on. And these guys did that. And you saw the results of it. It's exhausting on a pitching side, on the defensive side, when the hitters are wearing your pitchers out. And And it's becoming cumbersome to where those mistakes get highlighted because you're throwing enough pitches to where there's going to be some mistakes. It's hard to throw the baseball. It's a very difficult thing to put it precisely where you want it. Eventually, you throw 20 pitches an inning, there's a good chance you're going to miss a couple. And when you do, the Mets took advantage of it. Just a beautifully executed game plan from the Mets offense. I really needed to see them bounce back, and they did that like they have been doing for a big portion of this entire season.
Yeah, the best inning that encompasses all that is the second inning, obviously, 5 runs for the Mets, but the grand slam gets the highlights, but the way they got there was awesome. Starling Marte in the 5 hole. Beautiful. Beautiful. Carlos Mendoza, he's been known for his lineup shifts. It's kind of been a defining characteristic of his managerial strategy. He took Iglesias out of the 5, saw the problem there, moved Marte, which I thought it might have been the guys in the DH tandem instead. Marte goes 3 for 5 in this game and plays a key role in basically every run that the Mets scores besides the leadoff home run. He swings first pitch to get on base. Winker works a beautiful 7 pitch walk. When Jesse Winker is right, he's seeing more than 5 pitches in an at bat. That's when he's at his best. They get 2 on. And then good for Tyrone Taylor, man. Down 0-2. He's been struggling these playoffs. Me and Zoe were talking about maybe we give Bader another start just to see. He ropes one down the line, double there to score a run. They load the bases from Mark, and then Mark has the at-bat of the game. The at-bat of the game. Francisco Lindor gets intentionally walked ahead of him. I thought that was interesting.
The right
And
move.
did you see what Mark said after the game?
No.
He said that he took that personally.
You should. It is a
Because
personal.
he's that guy. He's that guy.
Exactly. You should take that personal because it's saying, I don't want to face this guy. I'd rather face this guy. And it's 100% because of who's behind Francisco Lindor. You should take that personal. And instead of being over eager, he did the right thing. Like it was wonderful. Like the dude threw a really good slider that the one that he swings at all the time, the slider that starts as a strike ends up out, down and out. He struck out on it a bunch already. It's going to happen. It's a good pitch. He takes it. Then he swings at every fastball, every ball in the zone he swings at. He hits, gets a piece. He even chased like a 96 above that he fouled off somehow that was at his head.
Yep.
And then right off of that, he takes a slider in the dirt. Like, that's magical. The way he worked at 9 pitch at bat, when you're pissed off because they walked Francisco Lindor in front of you to load the bases, you're mad. That's the difference here. When you want to be the guy and when your focus is like, oh yeah, you want to face me? I'm going to make you pay. But you're not just swinging out of your shoes. Most guys do that. They'll take that personal, and then that first pitch slider they'll chase, and then they're behind the 8 ball already. Instead, he worked a great at bat. He took all the balls, fouled one, a really tough pitch off, and then got the 9th pitch and hit it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, that at bat's beautiful because he gets that fastball at his eyes, like you mentioned, on the 4th pitch. Somehow got a piece of it. I thought he was going to strike out on that pitch. Then Landon Knack said, oh shit, he can catch up to that. I'm just going to throw him sliders. And he throws him 5 sliders in a row, 2 taken for balls, 3 of them fouled off. Knack is getting exhausted at this point. I have to imagine he says, all right, I'm just going to throw him my best heater. Hopefully I can locate it and hopefully I can beat him. He throws it right down the middle. Mark shits on it to center field. And suddenly our Mets are up 6-0, which is fantastic news. The frustrating thing about this game is that the Mets continued to work great at bats throughout this entire game. They got a base runner on in every inning of this game, and they didn't score again until the 9th inning. And that made this game way more scary than it needed to be because when you look at Sean Manaea's final line, you might think, okay, he did enough to scrape by and survive this Dodgers lineup. Sean was dealing for the first 5 innings. He was absolutely dealing. He struck out Shohei Ohtani twice on 6 pitches between the 2 at-bats. He handled Betts, handled the entire top 4, if we want to be honest, looked great, and then that dastardly bottom of the 6th rolled around. one of the most stressful innings I have watched in my life, if I'm being honest, not just this year, in my life. Um, Props to Mookie Betts, works a really good at bat to start off the inning with a walk. Leadoff walks lead to runs. We all know that. Teoscar gets the walk after. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I want to know your opinion too. At least in the early parts of this game, it felt like they were going after Shohei and Mookie and being really careful with Teoscar. I feel like he wasn't getting a ton of pitches to swing at.
Yeah, you're right there. I felt like they were definitely more careful. Shohei tipped his hand like on
Yeah.
his first at bat that he's like, I don't see the ball at all out of Manaya's hand, so he's not a worry anymore. Obviously, you still have to execute. He's still the second best hitter on the planet outside
Yeah.
of Aaron Judge.
Mm.
Um, you still got to be careful, but he had no idea where the ball was going, what pitch it was, just looked lost. Mookie, he pitched him well. He did up and down, and then Mookie's still one of the best players. Teoscar, he's a dangerous hitter. I would have liked to see them attack more, but that sixth inning, he just lost it.
Yeah.
He literally didn't know where the ball was going, and it happens. Doesn't happen very often, but sometimes you're just like, I don't know. I just couldn't get my body to get into sync there. He tried to work it, just couldn't figure it out. Freddie reaches on that Iglesias error to
I
load the
mean, dude,
bases.
he should have got out of it. That's the thing that sucks. Even if he did, like the Teoscar at bat, those pitches were very wild. They were all over the place. But he gets exactly what he needs. If Iglesias fields that ball clean, it's a double play guaranteed. Freddie's hobbling down the line. It's going to be two out, runner on third. It's I said it on stream. I think it's like the only time this year I've seen Iglesias just straight up boot a ball. He's got like magic hands. I've never see it happen. It felt like my brain glitched in that moment. I
I
don't
think
know.
his brain might have glitched. Yeah, he bobbled it. He just booted it. It would have been a huge chance for him to get out of it and extend it. But sometimes this is baseball. It doesn't always work and execute and work out the way it should work out. They had to bring in Phil Maton, and Phil Maton, like immediately, bases loaded, nobody out, gets a little pop up, infield pop up that does no damage. That's the first thing. You
Yeah,
get that huge first out. Will Smith is he the best catcher in the game outside of William Contreras?
top five, I'd say.
Yeah, top five, hands down. Like the guy's got pop. He's great. Gets an infield pop up. Maton, great, pitched him wonderfully. Then gets Tommy Edmonds. Tommy Edmond grounded the ball on the infield. This is what you want. You got the first out with no damage. You get a ground ball. Could be a double play.
Mm.
Definitely should have been one out. It ends up being a two-run single off of Pete's glove. He doesn't quite get the glove down. Freddie got in the way there, in the as the base runner to kind of block Pete. Plays got to be made. Um, that's kind of two blunders defensively that should have been out. It would have been done. Game over.
Inning
The
should be
inning
over.
over.
No
Should
runs
be over,
scored.
but it wasn't. And what did Maton do? Maton answered back. He pitched smartly because Muncy was locked in.
Just hit a homer last at bat. Yeah, you have to be
Correct.
careful there.
He's locked in, and so he wanted to face Kike instead, and Kike grounds into a double play. Vientos almost booted that one. He
Yeah.
did boot it and caught it and threw it, and Iglesias did a great job of staying in there with the runner coming down hard on him. Could have hurt his leg, like it was close, but he does a good job, and Pete did a great job of staying on the base. To only get two runs there was a very effective outcome for Phil Maton, or as you like to call him, Phil.
Just Phil.
Uncle Phil sounds cool if you're a
He might be Uncle Phil.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air era. But Phil comes through, and like that could have been the backbreaker of this entire series. If they come back there and they're within one, or they take the lead because that snowballs, that could be the series backbreaker. But Maton does a great job. His cutter had that rise. He's got that like Kenley Jansen cutter that comes in. Most guys have a little depth. His defies gravity and like goes
Mm.
up. It's beautiful. And then he had that sharp sweeper. He hasn't had a sweeper for like months. And then his curveball was effective. So all of his pitches were moving how he needs them to move. He looked very good. Obviously, he came back out, but that inning, that shutdown, holding them to 2 run was the difference in the ball game for me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such an unfair call for the reliever, you know. You just feel for the guy. Hey, bases loaded, nobody out. It's the Dodgers. Can you get us out of this somehow? And Phil really, I mean, he was really impressive. I was scared because, you know, he's had really shaky playoff outings up until this point. Even when the Mets brought him into, I think it was the 6-1 game in game one of the DS, he still didn't look great. But in this game, he answered the bell, man. He threw Will Smith 3 cutters in a row. You could tell right away that pitch was going. I was curious about the curveball, and that's the one he threw to Tommy Edman 0-2. It just kind of stayed up. It still moved. It still was, you know, a decent pitch, but Edman got it. That, in my opinion, is an error. Like Pete Alonso's glove was on the ball. It hits his glove and gets by. Pete can stop that ball. I think that's an error. Whatever. Scorers like the hitters. Okay. They get 2 runs there. The Muncy at bat was good up until the final 2 pitches. He got him 2-2, and then the last 2 were just kind of uncompetitive. The Kike double play, I think it's so cool that so Vientos bobbles the ball and recovers it. So he messes up. He throws it to Iglesias, who also messed up the double play before. He makes a great turn, throws it to Pete, who makes a great stretch after he messed up the other double play before. So the 3 Mets infielders that all had goofs in that inning came together to basically save the game in that moment. Because if they don't turn that, it's getting close to the top of the order again. And we know Shohei's numbers with runners in scoring position. It's like 16 for 20 recently. So that was the turning point in this game. And that set up the storyline of the bullpen's going to save the day today. Phil came back out, which I was pretty shocked by. It turned out it was just to get Pages and then the most intentional, unintentional walk I've ever seen to Shohei Ohtani. And then Ryan Stanek comes in, who has just become a guy. He's just been an absolute dude for this team. I think he's just the new setup man now, and I'm cool with it. He comes in, he gets Mookie Betts on 3 pitches to strike out, just like making a statement. I think he threw all 3 of his pitches. He went splitter, slider, fastball right at him. Goodbye, you're gone. Teoscar grounds out. So 5 pitches, you got the 2 and 3 hitters out and that inning. And then this 8th inning was pretty big for me too. Stanek comes back out. You can tell that I think Mendy doesn't want to use any of the guys he used in game one. I think the only guy we saw get up was Reed, which makes sense. That comes later. But he gets the first 2 outs. Tommy Edman, man, he's the kind of player that I think if he was on my team, he might be my favorite player. Like who plays shortstop and center field and works 7 pitch at bats every time he's up just to, you know, rock singles and never take walks. He's a very impressive player, but man, he drives me nuts. And he singles to basically extend this inning. Stanek starts to lose his command because he's now throwing, you know, 30 pitches. He walks Muncy. So Diaz has to come in the 8th inning. And we saw this in game 2 of the DS where Diaz came in to get Schwarber, got him, and then came back out for the next inning and was just flat. And I was really worried when Diaz came in that we were going to see that again because the top of the order was coming up in the 9th. Of course, the Dodgers get a free double steal in the 8th because Diaz is just
right off the bat. I mean,
he's going to let you.
Again, the Dodgers are prepared. They know it's basically Diaz has taken this approach. Like, I'm so bad that it's not even worth me trying at this point. So whatever. So I'm going to get the guys out in front. I'm going to focus on this.
It worked.
It worked.
I just hate that it's free. It drives me nuts.
It's free. It's so free.
It is freer than free, Jerry. You could walk and you would still get there.
You could steal 2 bases in the big leagues off of Edwin Diaz, hands down.
I think I could get 3rd off Edwin with like a decent enough jump. Yeah,
guarantee. Because once you go on the second pitch because you get his rhythm, and then you just take off early.
It's gonna bite us in the ass eventually.
Maybe.
I just know it. Just know it. But it didn't here, and that's what matters. It didn't here because Kike pops out. We handled Kike this game, which was big for me because he's been a playoff monster, and he got
His
so
whole
many.
career.
But he
Yeah.
got so many opportunities with runners on. How many did he leave on base in this game? I wonder. I don't have
I'm
the
not
exact
sure, but
number.
yeah, he got a very hittable slider
Yeah, it
to
wasn't a good
hit
one.
now. And it was the
Um,
first bad one that he threw that whole inning.
yes.
His slider looked great, and then he threw that one, and then it kind of left him. He didn't find it again because it came when he came back out in the ninth. By the way, before we go to the bottom of the ninth, the top of the
Yeah.
ninth, Pete gets on, steals second base.
Let's
He's like, hey,
go.
he
That's
said, hey,
two.
you can steal off our guy. Guess what? I'm going to steal off you. He's got two in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's like he's one
He's
of
got
like
more than
four
Shohei.
players. Yeah, it's nuts. Let's go, dude.
He's
Yeah,
got
dude,
more than
that's
Shohei.
that stolen base is so funny because we're watching the game and Starling gets an 100-mile-per-hour heater like dotted at the top of the zone, called a ball, but he like steps out before the pitch is thrown, and I'm like, oh, did he like call timeout and didn't get it? He just wasn't ready, and then Pete just pops up at second base. He's just like, hey guys, I stole a base.
That was a strike, by the way.
Oh yeah, I think it should have got called, but it
Yeah,
didn't.
1-2 to 2-1 is a big difference because then he takes a fastball just off the plate down at
Hmm.
100. But this is Marte, man. This is what he's been doing, hitting behind Pete. Marte gets a huge single to score Pete, and Pete looked quick, like not fast.
Yeah.
He was on it. Like he's turned on the Jets here in the postseason. That was some of the best base run I've ever seen out of Pete. Because it was a good relay home and he beat it. I was like, oh shit, he's going to be out because the Dodgers are fundamentally sound. No, he was there. Perfect slide, which is also not really in Pete's wheelhouse. He did a perfect slide, man. It was great.
It was as graceful as I've ever seen Pete Alonso run the bases, which is saying a lot because I've seen a lot of tough moments with Pete on the bases. But Marte is like my unsung hero of this game. Like we're mostly going to talk about the bullpen, the big homers from Lindor and Vientos, him going 3 for 5 in the 5 hole and extending the threat of the lineup beyond the top four is really big for this series going forward, man. Because the bottom of the lineup started to produce a little bit in this game. They took really good at bats, but getting the hitter between the DH tandem and Alonso to start producing is really, really important. So Marte works another great at bat, gets his third hit of the game. The Mets could have got more here because Winker also singled, but Iglesias and
Winker had a
Tyrone,
Winker had a great game. He got punched out
yeah,
earlier in the game on a breaking
bad
ball. That was
call. I forgot
bad.
about that. Totally
Yeah, it
forgot
was
about
very
that.
bad. Outside of that, dude, he looked great at the plate. Exactly who he should be. That's like his game plan. We talk about approach. That's his approach. Make him throw strikes and then take good swings. Um, he looked really good. He had two walks, and he had that one hit. Who knows what would have happened on that strikeout that wasn't a strikeout. Like that ball that was the worst call of the night for me.
Yeah, that was pretty
It,
bad.
it was inconsequential, but for him it wasn't.
Dude, I don't think people realize Winker is the second highest OPS on the team right now. Like
He's over
better
a
than
thousand right
Pete,
now.
better than Lindor, better than Nimmo, only bested by Mark, who's having the postseason to end all postseasons. 4 for 15, 4 walks, a triple, and a homer.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a trade deadline
And his
acquisition,
and
dude.
his
That's
outs
huge.
his outs lately have been good outs. Like he was trying to force his way through and now he's back to being the Jesse Winker that got him traded to the Mets. So
Yep.
that's
Disciplined
great.
approach. That's what we needed, man. That insurance run stands up big because we don't really know what's going to happen in the ninth inning, obviously. Um, I said on the stream that the Andy Pajes at bat will determine how stressful this inning is going to be. If he's out, we're feeling good. If he finds his way on base, we're feeling so bad. Uh, Diaz throws him another slider that just lands middle. He breaks his bat and muscles it into center field. And this is where I think Diaz begins to abandon his slider because he can't throw it for a strike against Shohei, and he walks him too. So now you got first and second, nobody out. That would have been the tying run at the plate if not for the insurance run, which is why I think it's so big. But you got Mookie, Teoscar, and Freddie coming up. And I'm not going to lie to you, 4-run lead or not, I'm not feeling good in this moment because
No.
you've held those guys at bay all day. They just feel like they're due to do some damage.
Yeah, I agree. You don't feel great. because you're like, well, he can't throw a slider, but he's throwing it. He got lucky to end the eighth on a bad slider. He got lucky that it wasn't destroyed by Pages, who got on base. Obviously, it broke his bat. And then he had it nowhere near for Shohei. First, and you got two runners on to start the inning with nobody out, and you have no idea if he's going to throw strikes or not. But he answered that really quickly because he went through Mookie, Teoscar, and Freddie with dominance,
It was
like
insane.
pure firepower. Like just said, you know what, my slider stinks. Let's just do this, and he threw like a couple of crappy ones again to Mookie. But then after that, it was like, nope, here we go. He went three straight fastballs to get Mookie after that. And then he went all six fastballs to get Teoscar Hernandez, who's a very good fastball hitter, to punch out. And he put it right at the top of the zone. Beautiful. And then it was, oh, he threw a slider to end. Oh, the back foot. Oh, yeah, to get
So,
Freddie.
dude, that's the story. He throws
Yeah.
13 straight fastballs because he abandons the slider. He gets Freddie, was it 3-2? 2-2?
Two and
I'm not
two.
sure. 2-2. And he picks the perfect time to reintroduce it because I'm sure Freddie's sitting on another heater. Why wouldn't he
Why,
be?
of course.
13 in a row. And Diaz throws his best slider in weeks, dude. Just like a beautiful back foot slider.
It was the perfect execution
Yes.
execution of the back foot slider.
Like
'Cause
if
he
Freddie
seems-
spits on that, that sucks, but that's a great pitch.
Yeah, and Freddie's like the hitter that would spit on that, like that good. But it was perfect because he's seen fastballs here. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I got one down that I can hit. And then it just goes pew, back
Yep.
foot, and you swing over it, game over. It was great pitching. Understanding what you don't have, executing it, and then when you feel like you can get to it, executing that as well. He's just got such dominant fastball that you feel all right if he only has that. You feel like he can get it done. It's going to be some headaches in and out and the possibility of the long ball because when he's only throwing his fastball, home runs are given up. So you don't want him to abandon the slider, but deploy it like this, make him think about it. You can't, like, just brilliant performance.
Yeah, perfectly executed. I mean, it took everything he had in the tank, another close to 30 pitch outing for Edwin Diaz. In fact, Maton, Stanek, and Diaz all throw more than 25 pitches. So this day off is really big for that reason. But this is what a rested Diaz can look like. I think he had really good control of his fastball. He even took a little bit off it sometimes to get it in certain spots. If that slider's sliding, man, we could be all the way back. I don't know. I don't think he has consistency over it yet, but just to see it a couple times
His
act the way
willingness
it
to
should.
throw it, and
Yes.
if it has it enough, if it breaks good enough time, because he's always done that. He's never had just a dominant all the time slider.
Right.
But just like his fastball, it's wild enough to where even when it's bad, you get a swing over the top because you have to you have to honor the fastball and how good it is. You're going to swing over it. But it's when it's consistently bad is when it gets hit for home runs because you can swing to it.
Yes, exactly. You can track it and just put your best cut on it. But the
Mets
Mets
Twitter-
bullpen, man. Go ahead.
Mets Twitter last night was my favorite because just like you said, those high stress innings, I saw a bunch of like, I'm feeling angina. I need my Lipitor. Like people are talking about their heart rate, blood pressure, all the
The
things.
body is not designed to endure Mets playoff games. It's become very clear.
Everybody was needing their prescriptions refilled after the game.
Stressful game or not, I mean, that's got to be the most stressful 4-run margin win I think I've ever watched in my life. Like the box score will never tell the story of how stressful that game was. But they got it done, man. That was, I mean, just such a massive win to completely erase whatever happened in game one. Game one no longer matters because you even the series. You gained home field advantage in a best of 5 series now. You have 3 games at Citi Field coming up. The Mets have to be feeling really good about where they're at. And on top of all of that, you're the first team to beat the Dodgers in a bullpen game this playoffs. It hadn't happened yet. So I think they're going to probably throw Buehler game 3 and Yamamoto game 4. So it's going to be back to normal there.
The only thing, and I said it to you before we started the show, that I think is a big win for the Dodgers is that they went through game one and game two, and the Mets have not seen any of Kopech, Trinan, or Evan Phillips, who are the three-headed monster of the Dodgers bullpen that can really just end a game in the seventh inning. The Mets didn't get to have a taste of any of those guys, and I do think at some point in this series, there's going to be a close game, and those guys are going to come in, and it's going to be a tall task for this Mets lineup as much as I believe in them. So that is a win for this Dodgers team because they did get to see basically that was our A bullpen there, besides Reed Garrett thrown in game one between Maton, Stanek, and Diaz, because who knows how Peterson will get deployed from here on. But from that standpoint, you can take that as a Dodgers fan and feel good going to Citi Field. But otherwise, yesterday was all Mets, baby. And that was really nice.
Absolutely. The difference between game one and game two, the Dodgers added on. The Mets didn't. They could have done the same thing to the Dodgers. They were up 6-0 after two. They just couldn't punch across any other runs and allowed the Dodgers to kind of crawl back, which also the Mets didn't do in game one. The Dodgers added one, added two the next inning, and it was suddenly a 6-3 ball game. And you have to deploy your top end, your top end relievers. But overall, this is a W for the Mets
Yeah.
because you split. The Dodgers didn't hold home court. They split. Okay? If you hold your own, you win a series at home, and then you make a split again on the road.
That's it.
That's it.
I mean, there's even a world that you don't go back to LA at all, and the Mets have the opportunity to do that now. But just a lot to love yesterday. Shout out to Mendoza. I thought he, picked his spots really well. Marte in the 5-hole again is just so big. Just a lot of things turned our way yesterday when nothing turned our way in game one. And that's just the story of this team, man. Like just getting thrashed completely in one game and then responding, like not letting it get you down, not feeling like the world is closing in on you, and showing up in game two to get a must needed win. Must needed.
Yeah.
Must have.
Must have. Much needed.
Talking
It was a
is
must
hard.
have win. You had to win game two, otherwise you're on the verge. So they needed this win. It's exactly what the Mets wanted. Could have swept, obviously winning two on the road. It's too much to ask for, but they got a W in LA. They stole home field advantage from them. Now, if they go and sweep at home, they don't have to go back to LA. It's lovely. This is the tough part about baseball, and I'm glad it's this way, but ideally the series would go 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah.
That's the true home field advantage. But if you steal one on the road, then you come home for 3 games. That's a huge advantage. So
It's how it should be, but I'm not complaining.
yeah, well, they can't because baseball, you don't want to give those extra days of rest because then you got to dig a little bit deeper. I like the way it's set up, but 2-2-1-1-1 is the more true home field advantage, in my opinion.
So for game three, we don't have exact probables yet. My guess is that it's going to be Severino versus Bueller, maybe Quintana versus Bueller. I don't think they know what they're doing yet. MLB has probables, but I don't know if I believe in that because I don't think the announcements have been made.
They haven't.
Yeah, so we'll see. But pack the house, baby. I'm going to be at game 4. If you're going, I'll see you there, hopefully. Enjoy this win. Enjoy this off day. I'm sure the Mets are going to enjoy it too. But just big time performance from the boys. Needed it.
Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next time where we'll be back.
Shea Station.